This is Nikki G and welcome to Better Commander. Today we're taking a peek inside Magnus the Red's Arcane Spellbook, brother. There is so much lore on this guy, it's hard to encapsulate the essence of a demon Primarch, Magnus the Red. Suffice it to say, he's a being of indefatigable psychic force, a sorcerer of incredible power, and his magic card reflects that nicely. Let's read the card, but first, take upon your head the horned raiment of subscriber, use a psychic force wave to depress the like button, and scream incoherent rage at the space wolves in the comments. Magnus the Red is 3 blue and a red for a legendary creature, Demon Primarch. It's a 4/5 with flying. Unearthly power. Instant and sorcery spells you cast have 1 less to cast for each creature token you control. Also has Blade of Magnus. Whenever Magnus the Red deals combat damage to a player, create a 3/3 red spawn creature token. Pretty beefy stats. This seems like a straightforward spellslinger deck, and I tried to build it that way 3 times, and each time it didn't flow the way I wanted it to. In reality, this is a token deck. The idea is to get 4 or 5 creature tokens out early and then cast more impactful spells with that sweet cost reduction. The real power of Magnus the Red is the ability to reduce the cost of every instant and sorcery spell. It's a very explosive deck. You can use spells that truly capitalize on that cost reduction. There are only 14 permanent spells in the deck besides lands. Most of our permanents are being generated by spells and thereby benefiting from our cost reduction. I want to make a few notes here before we delve into Magnus's arcane lexicon. Firstly, you can just buy the singles from the Warhammer 40k decks if that's your deal. Magnus the Red doesn't really fit in with the rest of the pre-constructed deck it comes in, except as a generic value engine, but he really shines as a build-around commander. Secondly, I don't build decks around some predefined rubric. There are generic Spellslinger value cards that are great in some decks, but maybe not in others. It's the same for interaction. Some decks are really excellent in stymieing opponents' plans, and some would rather just generate value and not worry too much about it. Those playstyles are just different flavors of Commander, and both are fine. You want to look at and hopefully find interaction pieces that have added synergy with your game plan. Let's take, for example, Stolen by the Fae. It's X blue for a sorcery. Return target creature with mana value X to its owner's hand. You create X 1/1 blue fairy creature tokens with flying. This is a 20-cent card that isn't as efficient as most bounce spells. However, turn 3 or 4, this can generate a couple tokens, delay a threat. Late game can get rid of the big blocker and scale up to bigger threats. Compare this with a card like Cyclonic Rift. That's undoubtedly a more powerful card. Also a very versatile card that can be cast at instant speed, but it costs $40. It's generically powerful, but maybe not as synergistic to our game plan. I'm not saying don't run Rift, but also I'm saying you don't have to go to the staples all the time. There may be cards that aren't as powerful, but have a nice bonus effect with our commander. And one last final note about deck building, these cards that I include aren't hard and fast recommendations. This isn't a deck that I would recommend you buy whole cloth. There are pieces that you may find to be less effective than I do based on your playgroup, playstyle, and experience. 2 players may have radically different experiences based on their divergent choices at decision points, preference to be more reactive or interactive. This is just a blueprint, and the goal is to build something flexible that you can mold to your playstyle. But I do want to show you something that stands up to aggressive playtesting. I want my decks to do something every game on turns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and have my game plan fully up and running by turn 6 or 7, because that's when most games are ready to reach terminal velocity anyway. So with Magnus, we're making tokens, making copies, and slinging bigger spells. Alright, so let's make some tokens. Tempt with Vengeance can make a whole bunch. We don't usually really care if our opponents make a bunch of little 1/1s too, because we're using them to reduce the cost of spells. They're going to use them for whatever the heck they're going to use them for. The sweet spot for this is probably 2 to 3 tokens. Occult Epiphany is another great card that can get us the cards we want by digging through our deck and making setup tokens for bigger spells that we draw into later. Dragon Fodder, Forbidden Friendship, and Krenko's Commander are efficient token producers. I don't know what the heck is going on in the art for Forbidden Friendship, and frankly I'm not going to ask a lot of questions. It's just a bro and his ugly dog hanging out in the woods, I guess. Geared's Belligerence. This is X red for a sorcery. It deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures. Whenever a creature dealt damage this way dies this turn, populate. This is an interesting piece of interaction. Only hits creatures but can help clear the board and eliminate threats on the board and give us some extra little tokens, buddy. Saheeli Sublime Artificer triggers off our ramp, our draw, our control elements, and can make the servos into a signet or talisman if we need a little extra mana with her minus ability. Hordling Outburst is another efficient token producer. It's what happens to hobbits if you don't feed them their second and third breakfast. Cackling Counterpart is the first of our clone token producers and only hits a creature we control, so worst case scenario is that we hit a spawn token, but hopefully due to the massive token copy makers we can hit something more impactful with this. Theoretical Duplication can cost as little as 1 blue mana, and we can react to our opponent's creature by creating a token for ourselves or reaping the rewards of whatever ETB or static effect it has. It's 2 and a blue for an instant. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control this turn, create a token that's a copy of that creature. For any of you who have been watching my channel for a while, I go on and on about this card, Irenicus Vile Duplication. 3 and a blue for a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except the token has flying. It isn't legendary if that creature is legendary. This can create a token copy of our commander and get us double the cost reduction of our scalable spells. This card is awesome. I bought a whole bunch right at the beginning and I was like, you guys better buy this card. And nobody listened to me. And now it's up to like $4 or $5, brother. Double the cost reduction, double the fun. That way we can reduce the cost of our scalable spells like Rite of Replication. If we can kick this, which is plausible with the cost reduction mechanic on our commander, we can get some really impactful tokens. We can get 5 copies of the best creature on the battlefield. The Docent of Perfection is such a good card. I didn't include a ton of cards like this, token producers that are also creatures, but it's a fantastic alternate commander and can make some really beefy tokens if we can get it to flip. This thing's a win condition all by itself. Plus, what do you think they're cooking up in the art back there? Those guys are cooking something. Could be meth, could be the dust that they put on the Cheetos, brother. The 6 mana value slot has some really interesting token copy producers. You have cards like Saheeli Artistry, 4 blue for a sorcery, choose one or both. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact, create a token that's a copy of target creature, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. This is a really versatile spell that can get us some powerful tokens. And then you got Elminster Simulacrum, 4 blue for an instant. For each opponent, you create a token that's a copy of up to 1 target creature that player controls. This makes 3 tokens of our opponent's best stuff. This is a great spell. It's only about $1.50 right now. Alright, I'm not going to read every card here because you have things to do and we don't have 10,000 hours to sit here and read every card. But I'll mention Sublime Epiphany here as it's a piece of interaction, benefits from the cost reduction, and draws us a card and makes us a token. This card does it all and it's still only about $3. Clone Legion costs 9, but if we have 4 tokens out, which is entirely reasonable, it costs 5. This is a huge effect for that low price. I also added a spell copying sub-theme in this deck, and Storm King's Thunder has an incredible effect. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell X times. You may choose new targets for the copies. This is a scalable effect that you can pump 3 mana into, and taking our 4 token scenario into account, then you get to copy the spell 4 times, which can definitely win you the game. Dualcaster Mage, my old buddy, he can combo out with any of our token copy producers to create infinite Dualcaster Mage tokens. Even better if you can do it at instant speed with Cackling Counterpart or another instant speed token copy producer at your opponent's end step. Kind of a cool thing about a deck like this is that we're emptying our hands fairly often. Scalable X-cost spells mitigate this. We are casting lots of spells, generating little tokens, generating more impactful token copies, and ending the turn with a full grip of cards. So we got cards like Finale of Revelation, Mind Spring, Silver Scrutiny, Pull from Tomorrow, Ingenious Mastery, Drown in Dreams, and Stroke of Genius. It feels great to draw 5 cards for 2 mana. Let me tell you, my friend. So how the heck are we going to win? Well, this deck has more board control elements than I think I originally set to put in there. We went a couple different ways. Mizzix's Mastery does nothing with our X spells, but those big token producers and pieces like Magma Opus can be cast and we can get incredible value off of a card like that. Then we have Open into Wonder. This can send our bigger token copies through unblocked as a finisher, but it also refills our hand. You know, there's a bunch of options, but you can copy a card like Brass's Bounty a couple times and channel big mana into a burn spell like Rolling Thunder. Hey, thanks for coming on this journey with me. This is a unique Spellslinger token deck / token copy deck that can generate a ton of value and scales to your table. Hey, listen, have fun. I know everything is getting pretty strange out there with the 30th anniversary of Magic coming up, but try to enjoy the scattered remains of this wonderful hobby while we're all still alive. This is Nicky G from Better Commander, signing off.